If you like real estate and are interested in jumping into that world and you love you some coffee, stay tuned for some great real estate tips here on Coffee and Real Estate. Today, I don't even know what episode we're on anymore, Manuel.
I don't know. So we had a great summer, right?
Yeah.
Two break in the summer. One of them we kind of took a push break because Hurricane Barrel.
Yep.
You know? But we came back, so everybody's doing well after that. But yeah, we're on episode 13, 14.
13, 14, I think is where we left.
It doesn't matter what episode.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah.
So welcome back to everybody else. And so today we have a special guest. We have our broker, Alan Hernandez, with White Picket Realty. And that's our broker. And today we're going to be talking about a little bit more about what it is that's the current market, right? What agents are doing, and definitely what our brokerage is doing to support their agents right now, right? So because there's a lot of changes that you probably heard going on in the market with NAR, right? But what are the brokerages doing to support their agents? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we delve into that, I want to ask Alan, since you're the broker and the founder of the company, can you tell us a little bit more about why White Picket Realty was founded?
Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for having me on your Coffee and Closers show. I don't know why I wasn't invited before until now, but I'm glad I am. I'm glad
It's because you're working out now, so you fit the look of the show.
I fit the look now.
I mean, we're trying to, fit into your schedule.
Right.
That's true. That is true.
Now that I work out, I get invited to these shows. I see how this works.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you might be having a show soon. We
am.
want to get invited, so we're like, let's invite him before he starts his show.
I'm actually getting ready to launch my own show, and yes, it would be fantastic to have you guys on there, and it will be all about how spicy we can see somebody get spiced out in front of the camera. So I'm excited about that. For those of you guys that are watching, keep following us, and we'll release some other information out here shortly. But to answer your question, I think it was, why did we start the brokerage? Is that what it was?
Yeah, why didn't you start the brokerage?
Why did I start the brokerage? A portion of that is because I'm slightly crazy and not quite all there. There's probably a screw loose in there somewhere.
Yeah,
that's a good reason.
I think if someone would have told me the challenges that I would have faced and the uphill battles that would come about from creating a brokerage, I might have thought about it twice. And when I was in it, and when I was getting into it, and really seeing how I was able to have an impact on people and create that positivity, I think that's what just kept me going with it. And there was no turning back at that point. It's funny now because I get a lot of people that are like, I'm getting ready to get my broker's license. I'm going to go start my own brokerage. And I'm like, hang on. Do you really want to do that? Hey, let me tell you a story.
Hold up, wait a minute.
So you guys know I have several different businesses, and this is by far the most challenging one. And it's because it's like a moving target, right? Like the market's always changing. The people are always changing. Everything about it is always evolving. There's never, it's not like when you operate a restaurant or sell a widget, where you just, as long as you provide excellent customer service and your product is excellent, it's going to eventually kick off. Here, it's always evolving. There's never just one way to do it. There's so many ways to do it. And so, what I think eventually happened with me though is getting to that point where I reached kind of like the pinnacle of my sales cycle. Like I think we all have a sales cycle, and we all get to the point where we're like, okay, I've already learned the process of selling and understand what that is. How do I elevate from there? And then the only real natural next step is to help others elevate, and by elevating other people, then you get a chance to elevate to a new step or a new realm. And so that's really what kicked it all off, and really what created it. I had no clue at that point. I mean, we're talking about over 10 years ago, where we would be going and all of the changes we would be facing, most of which are variables we never see, like barrel, like you just mentioned, or the changes that we're dealing with right now in today's market, which are throwing agents off completely on what, how, and what and why they're going to operate. You know, everybody's kind of just looking at each other for guidance right now.
Right. There's industry changes, and at the same time, the market still keeps moving. People still need to buy homes. They still need guidance and all that. So we're dealing with natural disasters, we're dealing with industry changes, regulations, and then at the same time, I don't believe that the market has changed much. Is that, hey, people are going to continue wanting to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. That's just a constant around, no matter what we've been doing. And so I touched on a couple of things that you talked about how evolving is important. Taking us back from the beginning to now, you're saying you want to help agents, you're helping agents. What are some of the steps that or measures you put in place to start helping those agents, from the time from inception to now?
I think the hardest part when starting off is looking at what worked for me, and then finding a way to systematize that and create a process around it. And it took a while for me to get that figured out, for me to actually be able to take it from up here and then say, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't. And like, one of the things that I realized early on in my career is that there is no operating this business if you're not operating it with a focus and intention in place. And two, with the right tools, right? Like, I remember when I started, and I'm not going to even tell you guys how long ago this was, because it's just going to make everybody out there know how old I am. But I used to keep my clients literally in a binder, right? Like I used to have a page with their name, their number, what they were looking to buy, what they were looking to do.
An actual Rolodex?
It's almost like a Rolodex, but like in the big, but I still have my binder at home. I still have this huge binder. There's got to be probably 100 or so people in there.
And leads in there.
And there probably is. And I literally remember, like, okay, this new house came out, this new deal came out, and I would literally go through that folder and call them and then call them all. We used to use something called a fax machine, guys.
Oh yeah,
I know. I had somebody recently ask me, "What's a facsimile?" And I was like, "Oh crap, I'm old."
Yeah, certified mail.
I was right after that time. We used to fax offers, and so I think about that, and then I realized, well, that was my CRM, right? Like, that was the first version of the CRM. From there it evolved into a spreadsheet, which then it evolved into keeping everybody in a database inside of Google, and then I realized this is pointless, and then we evolved into what we have now, which is one of the most powerful CRMs out in the market, Commissions Inc. And now the CRM tells me when to follow up, right? It tells me what to do, and it's keeping me accountable instead of me looking through my little folder and stuff.
Hey, I booked an appointment for you. Like, talk to this person.
Yeah,
okay,
seriously. It's doing the talking for me most of the time, and so I think about those times, and I think, okay, well, what worked then still works now. It's just a little bit different. And then when new agents come in, to answer your question, it's just a matter of letting them know that, hey, this is what works. This is what doesn't work, right? Because I've also had that. I've also had that experience. And if you really want to make money in this industry, and if you really want to be successful, all you have to do is follow these simple steps. And if you follow them every day, and if you're consistent with it, it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I've seen in White Picket Realty is that if you build out the system, like you mentioned, in defining a system is one that's going to provide proven results at the end, right? Proven results at the end. You follow the system, and this is what you should expect at the end of following the process and system. And that's one of the great things that I've seen is that agents who are following the system, go step by step, it's going to be proven results at the end, right? You're going to achieve results that you want at the end. The work is in actually implementing the system that's been given to you, right? That's kind of what the secret to take you.
The secret sauce? Are you talking about the secret sauce? You know what?
That phrase is copyright out in Hernandez.
It is copyrighted. Nobody go out there and take my secret sauce. So I think that a lot of this industry, a lot of the people that come into this industry get lost in a couple of ways. They get lost in the networking events that happen every day, which will somehow sell you some sort of shiny, fancy tool that's supposed to make your life easier or keep you from doing what you need to be doing.
Yep.
And or they're pumping you with alcohol and they keep you from actually being productive. And don't get me wrong, I've been there, done that. You guys know that. And I think that's where most people fail, is they come in and they think I don't have to do the work. I can find some sort of fancy gadget that'll do it. Even with having a top tier CRM, even with really understanding and having the right tools, you still have to put in time. You still have to put in work to actually develop it, to actually put it in practice, and to develop relationships on top of that.
And I think you pointed out some of those things, the dangers that we lost to. The other one is probably too much training, right? So we offer great training here at White Picket Realty. And I want to ask you, adding to that training, of course, we have the accountability portion to it, which is really another ingredient to making it successful, right? We have trainings out there, but agents get too lost in them. Like they need to go, like you said, there might be a secret over here. So we're constantly looking for that magic formula over here, right? So they got a training that it's in. But the reality is in the work.
Yep.
And then your job is to keep them accountable. How do you manage the accountability portion with agents?
You know what? I think that if we're going to talk about secret sauces, that is probably one of the ones that really has helped just overall in terms of agents and the growth of the brokerage and even like us, everything that we're doing. And it starts with having multiple levels of accountability. We've learned that as human beings, we're generally not really good at being accountable to ourselves, right? That's why we could say, I'm going to lose weight. And then we always wait till the beginning of the year and all the gyms are full between January and like March. And right at the time when like spring break comes in, we're ready to start just forgetting about our dieting, forgetting about our going to the gym, because we're not easily accountable to ourselves. Let's just be real about that.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can break our own rules and we can break our own agreements really easily. And so because of that, we started working on, well, how do you become accountable to self as well as accountable to others? And so it's being accountable to your peers. That's step 2. Being accountable to self being step 1, and then accountable to peers, and then accountable to someone who's overseeing the program or the training or whatever it is that you're doing, so that there's multiple levels of accountability there. And you know what I find is that the agents that are really successful, and I'm not talking about, the agents that have been doing this for 5 years plus. I'm talking about the agents that are really successful, that are coming in first year and they're like, I'm hungry, I'm ready to do this. Those are the ones that are willing to be held accountable at a higher level.
Yeah.
And the ones that come in and I know they're never going to make it are the ones that just do everything they can within their power to not be held accountable at all, right? Like they miss the accountability meeting, or they miss the accountability conversation, or they forget to do whatever task, whatever project they're supposed to be doing, and they avoid accountability like the plague. We all do at some level, but it's the ones that avoid it at a higher level that I can actually look at and be like, I'm not certain that you're ever going to make it. And it's just that's the cue.
Yeah.
Right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And it's very difficult when you talk about, accountability to self, and that's like one of the first steps in growth. And it takes everyone who grows into a different, at a different time.
Yeah.
Some may find it at a younger age, some may find it at a later time. The problem is sometimes I can't identify when we're going to find it.
Yeah.
You just have to work towards that portion of it and find that portion where, like, okay, I've got to stop doing what I've been doing because it hasn't gotten me where I need to be. Finally, I've got to be accountable to myself, right? And find those things. And sometimes you start small little goals, and you build up throughout time. And I think that's one of the ways that agents out there can go ahead and start building on success, right? Start small, build up.
Yeah, you definitely have to start small. You're not gonna come in on day one and be prepared and ready to make 100 calls a day and land 2 appointments daily and do everything that you should be doing once you're clicking on all cylinders, right?
Right.
But it starts small. It starts with coming in. You know what? that's step one. It starts with just coming in, right? It starts with saying, you know what, I'm in the office either every day or 3 times a week or whatever it is that you can legitimately do, but actually doing it and then sticking to it and making it happen instead of, oh, well, maybe this week, I guess, and maybe next week, no, and then forgetting to do the action items that you need to be doing.
Yeah, consistency as well as one of the powerful things to talk about.
Yeah. And I think I have a question I'd like to ask you, because as we saw, our time's running short here.
How much time do we have?
An amazing test here. We got about 5 more minutes. We have an amazing guest and talking about secret sauces. How many times have we used that phrase, right? Secret sauces. I think me personally, one of the things that I think that this brokerage, White Picket Realty, offers that's a secret sauce is the fact that agents are allowed to dive into the investment realm. And, you know, a lot of, for those of you that don't know, a lot of brokerages don't allow their agents to do investments, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main things that creates a little bit of a secret sauce for this brokerage. And my question would be, what is it that you provide that makes you so confident in being able to allow your agents to do the investment side? What is that?
I'm so happy you mentioned that. I don't know if we have enough time to cover this subject. And it's
Spark notes.
We're going to do the Spark notes.
Does that exist still, Spark notes?
No, it doesn't.
Now,
Yeah. You got Cliff Notes?
And what is that?
That was the notes for gummies, or what was it?
Is that sure, TikTok version.
Anybody that's watching out here knows exactly how old we are right now. All right, so that's one of the reasons why we decided not to go out and buy a franchise, by the way. So when we decided we want to launch a brokerage, we looked at franchises, and one of the main things that big franchises have are stipulations against agents buying investment property. And I thought, what a setup for failure, right? I mean, it's great for the brokerage because it reduces the risk. And ultimately, when you have a brokerage, that's what you want. You want risk reduction as much as you can so that you don't get into lawsuits and whatnot. But what a setup for failure for the people that are going to be in the trenches, doing the daily tasks, doing the daily work, doing the showings, doing the appointments and meetings and everything that it takes to really make this business work. If you're not actually working at the same time on building something that you can leave behind, or what we call a legacy, right? And so when we saw that was a broken piece of our industry, we decided, well, we don't need to necessarily have this big name brand behind us, because it's not going to allow us to do what we ultimately feel passionate about anyway, which is building something other than just a business. The business is only step one. It's just a portion of what we should be doing in this industry. It's just what brings in the fast nickels, but the slow dimes are what you can fall back on when you have a bad month. You can fall back at when you have a bad year, even. You know, and let's be real here. The last few years in real estate have not been the greatest, right? Like everybody had a great time when it came to buying and selling during COVID. And then as soon as COVID ended and we saw interest rates jump up and we saw people kind of get out of the playing field, it's been a challenge. I mean, most of us see 2 or 3 cycles in real estate in our lifetime. I think we've seen probably 4 or 5 in just the last 4 years, you know, and the people that are still here, many of them are still here because they planned ahead for that. And they said, you know what, I'm going to need some assets to push through the bad times. And I can tell you guys right now, we wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that. If I hadn't thought, okay, I'm going to have at some point or another the need for this additional potential asset to help us push through this. And I think every agent out there should have the same thing, right? Like, should always be continuously building their assets, should always be continuously adding to the portfolio so that they can at whatever given moment tap into those resources, not when they're ready to retire, but from day one.
From day one, from the beginning, go out there. And so you're talking about, and you bring in another, you brought in retirement. And then let's talk a little bit about that, is that's also another portion of why, real estate is. And you said, let's not wait till retirement. But we also have to keep in mind that as agents, no one is depositing money into our 401k. No one's matching that. We're completely independent, independent contractors. And so it's valuable to have a broker that says, hey, look, here, take care of your future. Take care of your finances, right? Here's an avenue of how to be able to do it. And so real quickly, Alan, what some of the services that you can provide to agents as a broker that you're providing to agents so they can begin investing in real estate?
Well, one is as simple as one. It's not just the service, it's the fact that we encourage it, right? Like we want our agents to invest in real estate. And that's step one, is just having a brokerage that empowers you to do that. And that says it's important for your future, for your retirement, for you to have financial peace eventually as you build this other business, right? Two, we find great deals all the time. That's actually part of the perk of being in this industry, is that we run across the best opportunities all the time. And so by being aware of what an opportunity looks like, we can take advantage of those opportunities and say, okay, this one actually looks like a good deal for my own portfolio, or it might look like a great deal for Caesar's portfolio. I send Caesar stuff all the time because he lives out in Timbuktu, and I know I'm never going to get to it. And
Timbuktu, by the way, is just north of the Beltway.
Yes, just north of the Beltway. Yeah. So, if we start looking at that, we take advantage of the opportunities by being aware of them. We encourage, we empower our agents. I fund probably 80 to 90% of all of the investment transactions that our agents do here in-house. And that's from either money that I've raised or personal funds or any kind of way that I can to help that agent acquire that next investment property, whether it's a flip, whether it's something that they want to keep as a rental. I'm looking at it, I'm giving them an extra pair of eyes and giving them some feedback if they need an idea on what to do with it or how to proceed with it or whether they should proceed with it or not. Sometimes it's good to just have an extra pair of eyes on it. And besides finding the deal and funding it, there's really not much else you need in this industry to actually start taking action into creating those additional income revenue streams and creating assets that are always appreciated.
Absolutely. And I think we touched on it again, back to, whether it's an agent doing the real estate practice or being an investor, you just mentioned taking action. And I think that's one of the key things that I've seen here because of White Picket Realty is that we don't get caught up on the analysis of the situation. We collaborate, we talk about it, yes, it's a good deal, and then one of the agents ultimately takes action. And that is one of the great things about here is that they're not just talking about it, they're actually consistently doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, we celebrate that. I mean, I feel like every time I see an agent buy a house, whether it's a flip or whether it's their next rental, I'm thinking that's one step closer for them to wake up one day and say, I'm going to choose to go to work because I want to. I'm going to choose to go to work because I want to impact this many families this year, or I want to choose to go to work because I just love the feeling of doing this versus that, and not because I have to go to work. And that's such a different emotion, and it's such a different life balance than the people that are forced to do it, who continuously live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck versus continuously planning for that day when you no longer have to do that.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things too is that value that you give to the agents trickles down, right? In this world of craziness where we were talking about it yesterday, we've kind of been the finger has been pointed at us as agents and as brokers to that we're the bad guy in the industry, right? We're the one taking money from people, taking money out of people's pockets. And I think one of the cool things when you allow your agents to invest is it creates a knowledge within that agent that then allows them to do the same thing for their clients, their end buyers, their investors. And now it's not a matter of our clients thinking like, oh, well, my agent didn't do anything. It's like, no, my agent made me thousands of dollars because they found me those deals that they're allowed to chase, that they're running into already. So that value just trickles down, and it allows us to kind of differentiate ourselves from a regular residential brokerage because we do both. So if we can't help you on the residential side, we can help you on the investment side the same way that we're doing for ourselves. So working with one of our agents here, you kind of have that expectation and that sense of comfort knowing like that agent's going to do something for me one way or another. So
I'm glad you mentioned
that's
that.
awesome. Yeah.
Did you ever sell like any like Cutco or anything like that, like door to door? Did you guys ever do that?
And
I sold a lot of things out.
You didn't do the knives?
no,
So-
I've done like working at the kiosks in the mall, you know, having to stop people passing by.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're with the yellow shirt. We got a yellow shirt special going on today. Like, you're that guy, you know?
So I was a Cutco guy for a little while, and I also sold Kirby vacuum cleaners. And this was like when I was in my teens, when I was in college. And what was interesting about that experience is I remember that both companies did not allow you to go be a salesperson for them unless you owned one of their products. So my mom still owns a Kirby vacuum cleaner, and I still have a fantastic set.
It's still kicking.
It still works. It still works.
If you want a Kirby vacuum,
that thing still drives itself. It's amazing. By the way, if you guys want one, I'll give you mine now.
It's like the last of the Mohicans, the last of the Kirby salesmen.
I'm probably the last one there. I still own a fantastic set of Cutco knives. I literally just gave a set to a client that just bought a house from me. And you know what's interesting about that is that you can't go out and be part of that sales team without owning that, because you don't know what you're selling if you haven't actually gone through that process. And I think that's what you were alluding to is when you get a chance to also be on the other side where you're buying investment property and you're selling it, your sales skills, your negotiation skills, everything about your knowledge, your in-depth knowledge for what happens during, before and after a transaction just elevates to such a higher level that then you can take that knowledge and you can bring that to a client, and that client is going to look at you and think, wow, I'm really getting my money's worth for having this person on my team. And ultimately, right now, the issues that we have with compensation come from not having clarity and so many agents being paid without fully bringing value.
Yeah.
Right?
Or being able to show what that value is.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, because they may bring value, but they don't know how to show the value, and that's another subject, maybe for another.
So we'll leave you with the last two questions. The first question is, what's your vision for the agents in your brokerage? What are your expectations or vision for your goals for your agents in your office?
Well, for current agents, we want every agent that comes in here who is already operating to come in here, plug into our system, and within 1 year double their business. And so far we've been very successful at taking anyone that's already existing, who's closing 6 to 12 transactions, and coming in and literally going from 6 to 12 to 12 to 24 by just following a step-by-step system, plugging into the CRM and letting our in-house systems and trainings do the heavy lifting. And all they're working on is adding more people to their database, following up, nurturing the things that an agent should be doing, right?
Building the business.
Building the business.
Going to a team.
Exactly.
Going to
for a new agent, we want to see them close their first 6 transactions in their first year. And we do that by giving them access to the systems that will allow them to do that, and then showing them how to go about that. Most of those people are going to come directly from their SOI, but we still get a lot of people that say, I don't have an SOI, or I just moved here, right? Or nobody that I know is of age to buy or sell right now. We get a lot of that. So then we give them access directly into what we call our pond, which is literally a large group of leads that can be followed up on, nurtured, and allow them to pick from there so that they can then start closing and creating a sphere of influence. So those are the two things. And then for agents that are not part of this, of our sphere right now, we have our big audacious goal, which is to double our numbers. We want to double our numbers within a year. And two, as we double our numbers, we want that agent to come in and double their numbers. So it's not just what do we want, it's what we want for them. And our plan to do so is by bringing them top tier training, which happens for us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 4 times a week, no matter what. And that's nonstop. That's something that we're committed to. We haven't stopped since we started doing that. Agents that are coming to that are seeing the results.
Perfect. All right. Well, then you answer the second question as to what you see is the vision of White Picket Realty as a whole. What's your 1 year, 5 year goal vision?
You know, I love that. I can think that if you would have asked me this just a couple of years ago, we were going through so many changes with market changes that I think I would have just said, I just want to make sure that we make it past this craziness, right? Like, I just want to make sure that we survive this. And thankfully we did the right things, right? Like we moved into an office that was downtown. We cut some costs. We did everything we needed to do very tactfully, very carefully. And I'm not celebrating the fact that there's 2 brokerages that shut down their doors on this street, but I am telling you that if you don't see or you foresee what's happening in the future, sometimes you miss some of those cues, and therefore you're forced out of the business. And that's what's happening to a lot of brokerages, a lot of business owners right now. We have been really, really blessed on navigating all of these changes, and I think the changes that are coming right now are going to impact our industry a lot. So the goal is to keep it simple. The goal is to reach out to as many agents within our reach as possible, so that we can double our numbers, so that we can double their numbers, and to be consistent throughout the process, right? Because if we're going to preach consistency, then we have to be consistent too. Be consistent in everything that we're doing. I can tell you that having multiple offices, you know, in every part of the city, we've tried it, and it's not what it looked like, right? It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. I'd rather have a really, really strong, really, really good, powerful team in one office space than to be diluted all over the place. But that doesn't mean that if we find the right group, if we find the right agent or the right team, that we're not open to that opportunity to creating more office spaces based on those already existing performing teams, and or coming in here and we'll help them build the team. That could be an opportunity as well.
Yeah. And so overall, I think we see a lot of growth and opportunity coming our way as long as you stay consistent and follow those systems. So thanks, Alan, for joining us today.
Sure.
So it was a cheers to growth and opportunity.
Growth and opportunity.
Yes, growth opportunity.
Thank you guys for having me on Coffee and Closers. I talked way too much, and we'll have to have you guys on for the secret sauce now that everybody knows
Everybody
about
knows it already. The secret sauce.
I am gonna have to ask you for some taquecito sauce.
Oh, I will bring some.
We're gonna have to feature.
I do have to make some a little spicier. I've had to dial it down because Yesenia doesn't like it too spicy at the house. But last time Manuel tried it, it was like a challenge. He was like, "Oh, all the hype and that's all," because it wasn't spicy.
No.
They wanted it spicier, so I'm gonna bring a special batch
For when we hang out,
way.
when we hang out for the secret sauce, I would like to request a level 9 or 10 spicy.
Okay,
Right?
We can do that.
Something that'll make our noses just,
I
you know.
want to cheer my sinuses.
Yeah, we're gonna clear sinuses.
Like, my sinuses are
It's gonna be like your Theo who doesn't have any taste in his tongue anymore.
We want to see sweat. We want to see a small bit of pain happening.
I want to see tears coming.
If we can get 1 or 2 tears throughout the process, I think we'll have a successful
Challenge. That's a challenge.
Absolutely. Thanks, you guys, for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. We'll see you guys next time on Coffee and Real Estate.